Podcast listeners, my favorite. How you doing? Look, I had a chance to speak with Ian Smith, who's the co-founder of Lighthouse Technology. He graciously invited me to join his Baseline podcast, which is very popular. And while I favor being the host, I guess I served as a guest this one time. So I thought I'd post it here, but check out the Baseline podcast with Ian Smith. It's everywhere, but also on YouTube video, though I have a face for radio. My podcast is also on YouTube, but I leave the video out of it. Ian jumps right in and starts with how I started my podcast. Have a listen. Hope you enjoy.
Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Well, at the time I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I like to learn when I'm doing running and different things like that, if I'm exercising. And I was listening to a lot of financial podcasts. That intrigues me, how to figure out like a cash flow analysis and that kind of stuff, or a discounted cash flow analysis so you can predict stock prices and stuff, whatever. And then I thought, I should start this podcast. I could do this. That'd be kind of fun. I should do it on tech because I learn a lot here. I would learn a lot preparing for the podcast. So it was a selfish thing. I got to tell you though, at first I went to marketing and they said, no, don't do that. And then, I go back to my seat. I'm like, okay, yeah, that was silly. About 2 months later, I'm like, I'm going to do this anyway. I don't care because it's something I'm interested in. So I did it. And somehow, again, it took off. It was just doing it because I didn't care who was listening, really. I was just, all right, I'm going to do this. And if people want to listen, that's fine. And then all of a sudden, I find myself to, I don't know, we hit somewhere around 30,000 downloads, 35,000 downloads a month. I'm like, who's listening to this stuff? And then I would go to a country, I'd be in Spain at a round table and somebody, oh, you got a podcast. I'm like, you're listening to my podcast. It's just amazing how that travels. So then it kind of became just like you say, I can't quit it now. I don't know.
Like the Taylor Swift of enterprise technology.
Shoot. No. Look, I still am envious of those that really have these heavy duty podcasts. I don't monetize it today. I've thought about monetizing it, but I just never have. For me, it's just been kind of a little side hustle for fun. It's like we talked earlier, you learn, right? You got to usually prep. Sometimes I prep more than others, but I learn a lot. And I get to network. I meet a lot of people, man. That's just awesome.
The story you've just told, it sounds very entrepreneurial. I think that when I met you, I had this sense that there's a entrepreneurial nature within your DNA. And whilst you've been at IBM for all these years.
I've been at IBM a long time. I've been within IBM. I've ran support. I've ran development. I ran our Watson products that now as Watson X. OpenScale was it would bias drift detection. This was, 4 or 5 years ago. I've done services. Now I'm in tech sales. Who knows what's next? So in other words, I keep switching positions, which keeps me intrigued. And you can do that with staying within the same company, completely different position, completely different muscle that you didn't know you had. So I think that's what keeps me going. So I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, although I aspire to be one. I wish I could only say that I've done what you've done. I'm envious of what you've been able to accomplish.
No, a lot of my work was, in the early days around IBM.
Yeah.
And within the IBM ecosystem.
Yeah.
I was always so impressed by the excellence of engineering within IBM products. There was always quite a conservative
We are
approach.
very conservative.
And I used to think about, say, Larry Ellison, for example, who was just a freight train of complex positioning and marketing. And then I would look at the more conservative IBM leadership. So they were positioning IBM well, but I always felt as though IBM just needed help from somebody to get it landed and delivering value, which was a good opportunity for me. But I would never portray that I was able to build the products at the level of quality and scale that IBM could always do.
IBM, I think we have a brand, and I think this is a very, very important piece of who we are, who we've been, and who we'll be in the future, and that's trust, right? People trust IBM. And I think from that standpoint, you don't see a lot of marketing that's very aggressive, that's going to particularly downplay our competition or whatever. We just want the products to stand for themselves. Now, to be honest with you, it bothers me. I would see a competitor, not to mention any names, put something in the Wall Street Journal that I'd say front page that was completely inaccurate. And it would say something about IBM. I'd call marketing, hey, are we going to respond to this? And they'd say, no, we're not. We don't respond.
I think legacy media, certainly around technology, is just less important. I look at what's going on with, to your exact point, you look at ChatGPT, everybody's using it because it's so easy and it delivers value at that point of transaction. And they're masters of staying in the news, whether it's positive or negative or controversial. I don't think they care. Their objective is to stay in the public eye for whatever reason.
Well, they do it well because then you always hear it over and over. So that burns me a little.
Why?
Just because our technology is so good. You mentioned, look, our AI technology, we're true enterprise AI for digital labor, for assistance, for IT ops. We're implementing some great solutions, but the first thing you see in the news is whoever did the latest thing and is touting it. We just don't do that.
Do you think if IBM was a startup today with its approach for positioning and marketing, do you think it could compete as a startup?
Yes, I think it could compete as a startup like Watson X. Yeah, we could compete today. I think we are operating as a startup in many of those instances.
How do you do that? How do you retain the ability to operate at speed and make? I always feel as startups are very good at making quick decisions in the field. Like actually, they don't need to go back through a hierarchy of decision making, which just creates latency and time. Like an example of IBM being like a startup was how quick they got DeepSeek onto what's next.ai. So that was a good example. Yeah. Like, how did you do that? How did you do that so quickly?
I think it's our strategy right now is being transparent and open. All our models are available as open source. You can see where the data is coming from. We have fact sheets, everything else like that. So, and we're completely open in our technology as well. Meaning, if you're using Watson X, which is our AI studio, it has governance, etc., you'll find that we're okay. If you want to use DeepSeek, use DeepSeek. You want to use, Llama? That's cool. That's been our approach from day one. I think DeepSeek, by the way, proved that. So everybody else is building these big models, a couple 100 billion parameters for everyone. It could try to answer a tech question. Well, it answer a poem about cats. We've been very purposeful from the get-go. And I've bought into this, even before it's popular. In fact, I've gotten on stage and said, look, the models are going to get smaller. Because it makes them more affordable, right? The models will get smaller, and as they get smaller, they'll be on your laptops and different things like that. You can run on a normal CPU, whatever, on and on. Point is, I think that makes us more nimble because we'll support anything. We'll support different databases too, different data sources. That's our whole strategy, hybrid cloud and AI. So whatever technology you want to use, whatever database you want to use, whatever LLM you want to use, you can do it.
So fundamentally, IBM's becoming, specifically in generative AI, some form of, it's like the enterprise platform that connects the customer's data to what I would say is pluggable LLMs or a dynamic way of leveraging LLMs. But if that's why IBM, why would a customer not just we'll go all in on OpenAI or we'll go all in on, Llama directly? Like, why do you need that control plane?
I think because, I'll give you an example. Everybody's moving to cloud, 3 to 5 years ago, maybe longer, whatever. They're going to cloud. Now I don't want to say they're coming back, but they're being more purposeful about what they're placing on the cloud. And some of them are even reusing their data centers. I don't want to say it's back to the data center, but sometimes it's back to the data center. So you're using, multiple clouds, and you're using your data center purpose-built. That's where we come in. I can't tell you how many clients right now, Ian, that made the shift to cloud. They went to one cloud. I think, their board told them, hey, you got to get to cloud. So they went to a cloud. They checked that box. Now they're there and they're like, this is super expensive. Because by nature, most clouds are going to over-provision. That's where they make their money. And they're going to sell it as resiliency. Hey, you got to make sure you over-provision so you don't run out of space, compute, whatever you want to say. And now they're coming to me and saying, hey, how do I get to multi-cloud? So it serves right into our strategy. And then I'll say, well, let's work. What other cloud do you want to go to? And then we create that plane so it doesn't matter where you are. So you don't have lock-in. You can use whatever technology you want to use. And look, I think at the end of the day, our technology is best, even our databases, everything else like that, but customers will get there. We'll allow you to use whatever you want, and then you'll see what we're made of, what we're capable of, and then you say, hey, IBM's got that database too. I'm going to use that.
When I was at IBM last 2011, say, I was working on, obviously, storage software moving from traditional centralized storage to distributed storage. And, just as we were talking there were people at IBM like Dave Lindquist that I still remember what he told me. Wherever he is now, his ideas still live on, certainly like rent-free in my brain. But seeing we were all into Apache Hadoop back then and big data, and it was that idea of batch processing and machine learning. And I've certainly seen the last 3 years with OpenAI and various others, AI's moving to real time now. And when I kind of came back into this space, that's the bridge that I missed. I couldn't understand where ChatGPT had come from and why it was having such a big impact. When, back in the day, Apache Cassandra, Hadoop, we were using those to do batch ML. But the fundamental change is moving from, okay, let's run a whole load of business machine learning on our data and then apply that tomorrow or next week or next quarter, to we want interactive generative AI systems now. So that real-time shift. Can IBM compete at that real-time AI?
I think we're doing it today. I mean, look, most people don't know this, but we were doing foundational models before foundational models were popular. We've done them years prior. However, the difference is kind of, as you mentioned, all of a sudden we hit unlimited data, unlimited compute, network. We're operating almost against physics, pulls everything together, and now we're seeing what we're seeing now. Now, look, none of this, to be honest with you, this will seem like kind of a far-fetched statement that I say. I don't know that the current situation where we are surprises me at all. What does surprise me, though, I don't think anybody could prepare for how fast we're moving, though. I mean, just the speed. I mean, I guess you could have predicted that, but I don't know, man. Things are moving so fast.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I think it's just, it's like we've taken Moore's Law and we've taken it to new levels. And that's because, again, you've got unlimited data, unlimited compute, lower prices. You can move faster than ever before. One thing that our chairman has really done well is, and you were talking about how to move fast, that's what he's about. It's about speed, science, everything goes in. It's like the geek way. Have you read that book? There's a book that he even talks about that. It's a very good book. It's called The Geek Way, and it talks about just driving with speed. That's what we're trying to do.
Do you mean Arvind?
Arvind Krishna, yes, our CEO. And look, you got to give him a ton of credit in terms of how he's transitioned the business. He's also added tons of focus, prioritization. We're not focused on the strategic outsourcing like we have in the past. We diversified out of that, focused on our infrastructure, software, consulting.
I remember being in a meeting room in Armonk, again, 10 years ago, with Robert LeBlanc, and we were presenting, we were talking, and Robert was kind of positioning it quite in a compelling way, this idea of situational awareness, what was going on in the market, how we would evolve the products. At that time, Arvind was, I think he could have been head of engineering, head of development. And Arvind...
What year are we talking about? Like
2012. 2013, maybe. And what Arvind did was brought quite a pragmatic technology approach to the discussion, which I liked. It was a calmness. Yeah. And I felt as though that calmness came from confidence within the engineering function.
Oh, yeah.
So whilst there was volatility in the market, storage was changing, compute was changing, AWS were changing the enterprise landscape, Robert and team from a sales perspective were analysing global trends, which obviously always are volatile. But when I heard Arvind position it, he came across with an assurance in the technology. And I think that his view was, as long as we build products that are the best, whether we're getting them to market or whether there's disruption, 100%. Ultimately customers will use them because they'll get value from them.
100%.
And you know, again, something I took on in my subsequent startups, which as a startup you don't have the luxury of maybe over-engineering.
Well, you did it
products.
well, so.
but you know that's I quite like that approach. But can you still do that with the speed in which the market's moving? Like, how do you retain that level of engineering quality with the speed of the market?
Well, I can tell you, you know, he's pushing that today. And now I will say, like, you know, I've sat in meetings and somebody will say, he'll say, hey, when can I get that first release? Somebody will say, you know, sometime like mid-2026. And he goes, great. You'll have it out mid-2025. Yeah. You'll walk out of the room and then it's time to deliver. And we find a way. I mean, that necessity, I don't know what the acronym is or the analogy is, but that necessity, we find a way. I think one thing that IBM has had to change, to your point, is we've typically been a very conservative company by which, you know, our products are deemed the best. And so you don't want to release anything that is less than, you know, fully baked, fully qualified, et cetera. That's still the mantra, but we're more apt to release a product that has like 3 best of breed features. We want to do 10 within this product, whatever it might be, but we'll release 3 and then work. That's the only way you can do it these days, to be able to meet the time to market. Otherwise, by the time you get all 10, you know, the market's past you. So we're really pushing that mantra within development.
I think about development, and my simple view was, you know, we moved from waterfall development practices to agile, neither of which are perfect, but obviously were focused on increasing the rate of development. And now we're seeing like the proliferation of AI to assist in the engineering process.
Yeah, we're doing that a lot, by the way. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I look at Cursor and like products that are on the market, and they're, you know, it does play to my worry of, are we just de-skilling developers by using these products, or is this just the natural phase, like when we went to libraries and you know, modular code? Like, is it just another phase? Like, how do IBM use AI tools to iterate products faster?
Well, first of all, on your first comment, I think everybody debates that. I mean, look, we use a calculator. I'm sure at some point in time, I know at some point in time, people are saying, hey, you got to do the hard math. I want to see the work. And it's going to dilute our understanding if we're using calculators, but we all use calculators. I think, you know, you've got to take the technology and you've got to take it to your advantage. An example of what we're doing in development right now is Watson Code Assistant. We're using that across the entire life
Do you use
cycle.
it yourself?
I have, yes.
Oh, no, not you. I mean, your engineering teams.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. They use it as a pause real quick. Let me finish that, I guess, that sentence. You know, we use it across the full life cycle. You know, everything from comments to quality assurance, et cetera, everything around our life cycle with Watson Code Assistant. It's working extremely well, but it's augmented in intelligence. And that is what we call Client Zero. That means we take all our products and we use them internally. And in fact, I don't know how much I could say here, but internally, Arvin, speaking of,
say everything.
We've had a very aggressive target on how we could optimize, add productivity, add speed within our IT ops organization. And we've nearly met, you know, a multi-billion-dollar target of takeout using our products. This is like Turbonomic that does resource optimization, Aptio that does Aptio with Turbo does FinOps. We're using that. You're using developers using things like Watson Code Assistant, Watson X to augment their development cycles. I don't know. I could go on and on, but these are the kind of things with Client Zero we're doing internally. And the great news about that is, for a seller, now that, like, I've been in development most of my career, so I get that piece of it, and that's kind of where my roots are. But now that I'm in tech sales, I mean, there's no better way to sell a technology than to pull up our own website and show that Turbonomic is actively taking autonomic actions on behalf of provisioning and everything else on that website in our own environment. it's the best-selling tool that you got.
How did you make that psychological shift? Because I see a lot of, I love Turbonomic. A lot of people deploy those products for it to give the insight, but they like to manually do the changes themselves. And I think AI is forcing this trust problem. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Turbo comes back and says, you can save X, you can move these, images or containers. Do you want me to automatically just do this for you? And there's this leap of faith that needs to happen that I think people struggle with.
They absolutely struggle with it. Here's how Turbonomic typically works. First of all, the hard part about Turbonomic is it's a fantastic product. People got to check this out because it does the resource optimization and it'll show you where you are over provisioned, by example. And what ends up happening a lot of times when I've been clients, you show it to them, they say, wow. And they say, well, inevitably there's a lot of clients, unfortunately, that say, well, I can do that myself. Now that you've told me I don't need the product, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it myself. What inevitably happens after that, then about 6 months later, we check back, they've not done it to the optimization or the efficiency that they need to, and they go, all right, we need the product. And the product comes in there. Then there's another cultural change, like you mentioned, and that is you got to trust it. Most of the time, you're not going to start off letting a tool or AI take actions for you until you see it. Pretty soon you do it. The monotony of doing it over and over and over. Right decision, right decision, right decision, and you can select certain areas that you can get comfortable with first, so you're not putting your business at risk. But the bottom line is, then ultimately you go, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. So it took IBM some time too, but now it does, I don't know, thousands of actions on a weekly, monthly basis on behalf of our cloud. And we've got a tech zone. Tech zone is where we do a lot of our testing, our demos that customers can also use, all optimized.
As you're speaking, I love this. It's back to your client zero point. But in some ways, it would be quite nice if IBM could produce some sort of internet-facing dashboard of products like Aptio and Turbo or any AI automation and show the world that within the whole IBM corporation, like there's literally a view count saying action, 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 action. To actually give transparency and therefore confidence in hitting these, allow AI to run. I don't think I would be doing this podcast if AI wasn't such a compelling technology to everybody. Like if we were here in 2012 talking about, fiber channel block size to optimize stream and performance for media and rewriting the UDP stack to allow Netflix, because that was another brilliant IBM acquisition. People aren't interested. But when they look at that click to allowing a machine to think for itself and act for itself, that hits people's... There's something in the human mind that is quite triggered by that, either utopia or dystopia, fear or opportunity. So within this technology domain, we start to talk about philosophy and trust in the machines, and it plays to all these sci-fi narratives.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get customers or organizations or yourself over that?
I think you got to experience it. Look, almost every client that I'm meeting right now, they're kind of coming to the conclusion that you've come to, that, well, at least the boards are and the C-suites are, that there's got to be a cost takeout play. Cost has always been an issue, but right now there's so much you can do with AI and augmented intelligence, whether it's developer, IT ops, assistants, whatever the case may be, that they know it and they're seeking our counsel in terms of how to do that. But you got to see it in action. I actually do exactly as you say. The best way to do it for me, at least in a first couple of scenarios working with clients, is to show it. I actually bring up live IBM's internal cloud infrastructure, and then I'll show you the actions that are being made. And look, it takes culture shift. But in the theoretical and it shouldn't be but, it's and. So it works. It works extremely well. You can save a ton of money, and then repurpose some of your staff, or eliminate some of the tools that are not providing value. All good. And we're having huge success at that right now. I do, if you're asking me theoretically, I think the biggest concern I have in AI is trust. Just because, and that's why IBM's trying to continue our trust brand, by the way, because I think a lot of these competitors, if you're scraping the internet, if you're, and that's, you're not open, you're not transparent, it's your model or bust, it's your cloud or bust, I think that's where you get risk. And that's why I think clients are coming. I mean, I'm pretty proud of our strategy. A lot of the clients are coming to us because they want that open transparency. That's how you get them to say, all right, I can go along with this. Like, you want to use our cloud? We have a cloud. You can use it. If you don't, that's fine. But that trust is, I think, what's driving the business. But anyway, or driving the market. I do worry about just overall trust in general as we move forward with AI, because people see what they see on the internet, and they tend to believe whatever they see, and AI can create anything. I did an internal video for the team, our sales training, and I was having some fun, and I was like talking. I said, when I do prompting, I say please and thank you, because when all these AI bots decide to be self-employed, they're going to remember me, and they're going to take me with them. And it's all funny and stuff. And then somebody sent me just the other day where AI had actually cheated to win. They get and it wasn't. They had one case, I think, where they did prompt it to kind of give it an idea to cheat, and the other case it did it completely on its own. It just wanted to cheat to win. It was like, I don't know if there's a movie in the 80s called War Games or whatever.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, where the machine takes over and then ultimately decides, hey, nobody can win this game. It was about to send nukes everywhere, and then says, oh, nobody can win, and then this shuts down. But that does kind of worry me, right? If it goes unfettered, if it goes without scope, and we're not watching.
Do you think humans will be subservient to machines in the future?
I think, wow, that's a deep one. Will they be subservient? I think it's going to be part of our everyday life, 100%. I think we're going to be taking guidance from machines. I don't want to say subservient, though, because I don't want to go that far. I hope not. I hope they're used as aids and they better our life versus take it over. There's a risk. We got to stay on top of things. You know what else? What really, so that's a concern. But I think I'm positive. So I think we'll hold our own. If you're asking me my biggest concern right now, and I don't know if it's for everybody here, maybe it's only me, but my biggest concern is actually quantum, which nobody's talking about. And the reason my biggest concern is quantum is because I firmly believe it's in use today. I think that's a misconception, first of all. People are using quantum, whether it's Monte Carlo simulations, different things like that, but it will break encryption. I'll bet my house on it. And when it does, somehow it's going to catch us by surprise. It's kind of like this DeepSeek thing, right? Even though there's some issues with that. But anyway, let's go with it. So all of a sudden, we're using all these GPUs, etc. DeepSeek comes out, and it's like a big, oh my goodness, we can do this with CPUs or not GPUs or whatever. It's much more efficient. There's optimization and some of this, the modeling. I'm afraid that all of a sudden something like that's going to happen with quantum, where we're going to wake up one day and say, oh, encryption's broken. And then a lot of these companies aren't ready for it. They haven't prepared. They haven't done any quantum safe. That's probably a pretty big concern. Nobody's talking about that either, because we're all consumed with AI right now. That's the next thing on the horizon, and I think it's a real risk.
I think there's a huge opportunity for IBM, because I feel as though IBM's just been quietly working for the last, say, 10 years. We're on this verge of quantum, to your point. If it can deliver on its premise, it's going to change everything. It's going to change everything. Somebody was explaining to me the other day that if you take all of the computing on the planet at the moment and say that's a kettle, like your kettle that boils the water, the quantum is like the whole universe relative to a kettle. That's how big the difference in our ability to compute is. Uh-huh. And, that's even difficult to comprehend. But like, what companies really have the heritage and depth in quantum, chip manufacturing, software? I mean, I'm looking across the whole, and I'm talking about the big businesses. Other than IBM, I don't see anybody. I see Google trying to catch up with quantum chip form factors. Microsoft have just announced their quantum chip. It feels like they're 10 years behind. IBM need to... This whole quantum opportunity, it needs to support and help companies and people traverse what I think could be the biggest shift in computing that I've ever seen, certainly in my life.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's probably fair to say, I mean, kind of like where we started here is we're quietly working. We're not one to be touting and throw little nuggets out but we're working hard, exhaustively working on quantum. And what I would, and I'll cordially invite you to come to Yorktown, just to our quantum lab. I promise you, have you been there?
No.
You need to go there. Because you will walk out of there. You maybe do a podcast there or something. Because you will walk out of there and you'll be like, oh my goodness. I mean, it's amazing. Every time I get a chance to take or do a customer briefing there, I try to go, because it's like, I want to see it again. Because we got the chandeliers, all the quantum, and we'll have some of the scientists come in and physicists come in and talk to you and talk about the possibilities. When we do this with clients, they get it and they know where IBM really is. And we're in the game there. There's a lot of investments, a lot of people in white lab coats walking around a true lab. It's freaking amazing. The possibilities are endless. I worry about that, and it's just going to quietly happen.
Listen, quantum computing is something I'd never looked in. Sorry, quantum physics is something that I've never really looked into until I started the podcast and spoke to a couple of the people at IBM. We talked about how, and this is me butchering it all, but how particles change their behavior when they're observed. Yeah. They actually turn into photon wave behavior purely by the fact that they're observed, which freaked me out completely. Why should a particle change its behavior just when it's being observed versus not being observed? And
temperatures and different stuff like that. But keep going. Yeah.
Feel free. But my point was that once I actually comprehended that idea, it seems to change everything we know about the physical world. That the physical world fundamentally changes to energy when it's observed. And when you extrapolate that to our understanding of the universe and the way the speed in which we can travel, all this, our perception.
They're going to have to rewrite books. Yes.
Oh, well, I think the computer will be rewriting the books.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely. You know what's funny about all this? Don't ask me about quantum.
By the way, I'm definitely coming to Yorktown Heights.
You need to go. You've got to do it. I promise you, walk out of there with your jaw, to the floor, and you'll be like, "Oh my goodness!" and you'll want to write about it. I mean, it really is that profound. I would say, look, I just know enough to be dangerous. The funny thing is, I took quantum. Well, it was called Physics 3 when I was in college, and it was the theory of relativity, essentially quantum physics, whatever. This is the only test I got like a 40% on. So I'm panicking. I'm not kidding you not. I get a 40%. I said, are you going to be kidding me? That's all I got on this test? I'm like, I'm going to flunk out of this place. All of a sudden they go, the professor gets up, and with the curve, it was a B. So I was like, thank you. But I mean, it's tough stuff. So pure respect to all those physicists out there that do this. Man.
I mean, AI is the same. Like, AI is here now. It's not a few. That's the difference. The generative AI and AI technology is here now. Like, the one thing in my research to seeing you was the Super Bowl and the NFL are using AI extensively. Is it Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah. That's my team, man. That's my team.
They're using it across optimizing performance, player performance, also head injury analysis, keeping the players safe. So this idea that AI is somewhere slightly in the future is just wrong.
Yeah, no.
Teams are using it to competitive advantage. My question is, are Kansas City Chiefs winning at the moment? Like, where? Because I don't want to go on about how good AI is.
No, they are winning. They're doing great. And I don't know the whole AI story. So, the Super Bowl. We have been to the last 5 out of 6 Super Bowls. However, all the haters out there are going to say we lost the last one, which was a month ago or whatever. And we got beat pretty handedly. But we've won the 2 before that. We were trying to, what they call a three-peat. That's never been done. But so we did lose. That's okay. We've been there 5 out of 6. If history would tell us, we'll probably be there next year, I hope, and keep going. Yeah, that's my team, because I'm from Kansas City. The difference between me and all the haters out there is that I was in love with the Kansas City Chiefs when they were terrible. I never thought they'd go to a Super Bowl in my lifetime, to be honest with you, like 7 years ago. And now we've been there 5 out of 6 times. So I don't know what they're using for AI. I haven't studied that. Maybe I should. But,
maybe it's some form of AI that's changed the fact that they've been there 5 of the 6, and I got the AI race. I'm starting to think maybe AI is a competitive advantage.
We got a great quarterback. That's the difference.
Is that the reality?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So once you get a good leader, but I bet they're using, they will be analysing every
it's what we call Moneyball.
biomarker.
You should have somebody on your podcast. I've had a couple of people on my podcast to talk about Moneyball. In fact, one of the person that did the advent of Moneyball is what we call it. There's I don't know, you've probably, there's a movie called Moneyball.
Yeah, it's amazing. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when and that was the Oakland A's. It's kind of funny if this is relevance to you and that your listeners here, but in the U.S., I love baseball. I love football. Football's kind of taken over. And the reason it has is because we really have revenue sharing, salary caps. Every team, by and large, has the same opportunity every year. Whereas in Major League Baseball, there is small market teams and big market teams. In other words, they have different payrolls. So Moneyball came about with the Oakland A's because they're a small market team. They had to compete. They can't get the big players. So they said, what are we going to do? So they started using analytics. And this is before people were really using analytics. They thought you had to recruit and you had a human, you had to always be involved to tell if a player was good or not. And they said, no, we're just going to divide the game into different parts, like singles, doubles, triples. I don't know if you know baseball, but the point being is, and then they looked at who gets on base the most, and we're going to find that person. And it really shocked the industry because you're going to take that person's terrible, but they knew how to get on base and that helped them win. So they put this algorithm together. That's how they came up with Moneyball. The problem is now everybody uses Moneyball. Mm-hmm. Seville FC here, we did a recruiting algorithm for them as well, where they were spending, I don't know, I'm going to get this wrong, but 300-400 hours looking through player cards to figure out who we're going to recruit. And at the end of the day, we're flawed as humans. You get tired going through cards. You're not going to use the same algorithm you think you have or you have in your head or whatever the case may be. So they put this algorithm down. And so now that they can go through those in minutes, seconds. And now they've narrowed it down to, I don't know, let's say 30, 40, 50 players. And now they can spend the time that they were doing, looking at these player cards, doing personal interviews to make sure their culture fit for the team. And now in the U.S., for colleges, we actually pay players. This is a new thing. It's called NIL, long story. But point is I think you're going to have to do that. I've got colleges reaching out saying, hey, how can we predict how much we can pay these players to make sure they come to our university? So anyway, AI is already there, and it's only going to amp up. And if colleges aren't using it for some reason, I got to believe everyone is, and they're at a huge disadvantage. Anybody that's not using AI today is at a huge disadvantage.
Well, I think that back to this trust point, if these sports teams have found advantage and then all the others have followed to give a level of equivalence, that would suggest businesses should be following that model. But that's not what I see in business. Business seems to be hanging back. They can't get access to their data. The data's all over the place. It's not indexed.
But see, that you just gave the use case for IBM, though. If you can't get access to your data, what we want to do is do just that. Make sure you can get access to any and all data. You got multiple data sources? No problem. We'll support any database. Now, that's an incredibly big triumph and a challenge for our engineering team, so you can support that. Sometimes it takes a longer development cycle, so we open it up to all databases. That's where the key is. You talk about the differentiator at IBM. That's why we're hybrid cloud and AI.
Well, I think that if you look at the egress costs in public cloud, just the having information in AWS S3 and the other equivalent hyperscaler kind of cloud buckets seemed like a good idea maybe 7 or 8 years ago when you wanted to depreciate traditional storage. But we're coming to a point now, well, if customers want data to become their advantage, i.e. feeding machine learning models using AI in real time, it's going to have to come out of the cloud, Al. It's going to have to. It's going to have to go into object storage. It's going to have to go into something else. That doesn't mean every time you read it or access it, you're paying the hyperscaler. Because fundamentally, if you're going to try a public cloud storage architecture for AI, it's going to become a tax on your innovation because you're paying to access the information. Yeah. So public cloud has got to be transitioning to some form of hybrid object store, which is kind of getting me excited about the storage industry again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's cool to be excited about storage,
Yeah,
but
it is cool.
I always have been. And
my storage folks would tell you it's cool.
Well, I think it's going that way again.
Yes. Infrastructure is hugely on an upsurge right now. Most clients have really gotten wise to the mainframe and how powerful it is. A lot of times they were looking at the mainframe and cost and stuff with security, how powerful it is, the AI that's built in. It is also quantum safe now. So because we did the algorithms with NIST, so what we did is we got ahead of the game and put them into the mainframe so that you're already quantum safe if you're on the mainframe. I mean, infrastructure is huge right now, and storage is huge. But what this all gives rise to is I walk into a lot of clients and they're like a deer in the headlights. They're stuck. So we've been building for years. We've got this, multiple data stores. We want to get to the cloud. Do we move to the cloud? How do we get that to object storage? I mean, it's going to take us years to do this. We got a huge data estate. We got a data warehouse. Anyway, lakehouse, whatever. And if you don't have like a hybrid cloud strategy, you're never going to be able to embrace the innovation and the speed that you need. So what IBM does is we come in and we're able to say, look, we'll support your data. Leave your data where it is. Leave it on the data center. You don't care about it. Is it working today? Yes, it's working. So in this more strategic or fit for purpose data that you have in the cloud, all right, move that stuff to the cloud or use that in the cloud or create your lakehouse in the cloud. And then we can access both at the same time. We don't care where it resides. Oh, and you also have stuff on AWS or Microsoft and IBM. We got you there too. What that allows clients to do is to modernize right now. It's almost like a relief, right? You can go, all right, we can have access to all these different data warehouses. I don't need to move it. You don't need to go through that expense. We got you. And now you can focus on your future. That's what I think is the big game changer. We're moving fast in that direction. It allows the clients to move fast in that direction.
One inhibitor to that maybe, and everybody wants to talk about the risk of AI taking people's skills away and de-skilling them and leaving them as just servicing a machine. What nobody talks about is the fact that when organizations went to public cloud, they lost a lot of operational skills and architecture skills when their own businesses. The amount of 10 years ago, the amount of people in my network who were the head of architecture, head of storage architecture, operations leader within this bank, that pharmaceutical company, this manufacturing company was huge. It was a big community of ops and infrastructure people. They don't exist anymore, Al. So you go into an organization that went wholly into Microsoft Azure or AWS 5 or 6 years ago. Those teams aren't there anymore. So everybody wants to talk about AI descaling teams. Public cloud's done the same thing.
All true. That's why you see a lot of managed services that exist today, and it's a good for a startup, managed services, given where we are. But that's exactly why IBM bought this company called Red Hat, built on OpenShift, which is on Kubernetes, which is essentially an open source technology. So I guess the next best thing is to be on an open source technology that everybody could see, that you could use across platforms, and that will give you access to your data across platforms. Yes, is it going to bridge all the skill gaps? No, hopefully AI will do some of that, as we've been talking about. But it is a challenge. There's no doubt.
One thing I have really got from this today, Al, is your energy. Your energy and passion for what you're doing.
It is fun, man.
You have a huge global team.
Yeah.
It's actually an honor to have you today, so thank you for taking the time.
It's an honor to sit here. This is a hell of a studio. My studio is a microphone and a laptop, so you've got me.
You're the guinea pig today. This is all for you. But you have a team of over 3,000 people, is it? 5,000 people?
Yes, they're all virtual. And I work for them. Let's be clear.
What is the message you'd like to get to them? Like, what's the key? And I'm sure you're speaking to these people and inspiring them and kind of leading. And
I try.
But, specifically on the application of AI in the organizations around the world, or even using AI, what message do you feel as though needs to be said?
I think you have to be, a continuous learner in this business. That's my simple, be curious. And if you're not, you're probably in the wrong space. In fact, I had a roundtable with the team, the UK team, on Monday, and that's the first thing I started with. We do our roundtable. Usually I ask them, one topic real quick, what do they do for fun, all that stuff. And then I asked them a question. I said, who has used this model? Who's used this model? Who's used this model? And I'm asking these challenging questions because, look, you got to know what you're selling, first of all, and you've got to continually test this stuff, work this stuff, learn. And this is tough for anybody. I mean, there's a lot of priorities. I have, you have, whatever. It's hard to make time, but I think I try to make time and walk the talk of spending 2 hours a day learning. It's tough. But, my mantra is just to show up. I'll just show up. Let's put 30 minutes down. I'll try to block the calendar for 2 hours. And if I get to do something else, that's fine. But once you get in, you show up, then you start diving in. What's this? What's Cursor? What's this new technology? Let me look at the new Granite models and how good they are. That's what I challenge them to do on a regular basis. If we do that and we're the most technical sales organization on the planet, there's nobody that can beat us. I'm really proud of the team right now. They are extremely technical, but we can't let our guard down. It's moving so fast. I'll wake up tomorrow and there'll be another change. So it's studying and studying and studying. I probably work too much. I was out last night and they were saying, well, I think you might work too much. Well, a lot of it's because I study a lot. I mean, and I don't feel like I study enough, to be honest with you. I want to be more technical, but it's hard to keep up. But you got to keep going and use it. Like right now, I have the Granite models downloaded to my laptop. I use them every day. It's now to a point, and if anybody doesn't, I'm surprised by that. I would challenge them on that. I use it, if it's less than 30, 40 times a day, I'd be surprised. But I like to have it on my laptop because then I'm not throwing it out to the internet. Nobody knows what I'm questioning. It's amazing. It helps me and it speeds up my productivity. So anyway, you asked the simple question, or the simple answer is it's continuous learning to make sure you know the technology, particularly our technologies that you're selling, and continue to test it, push the field experience back into development. Those are the things I'm pushing.
I was hugely inspired by Ginny Rometty, and I remember the smart cities, the original kind of Watson play in healthcare. I think was one of they talk about use cases. And in 2011, the IBM Watson technology won Jeopardy. It was amazing to watch. And it was quite groundbreaking to see a voice AI beat a human at a structured game. You look today and you got OpenAI, Google, Amazon. What went wrong? What went wrong at IBM Watson to be leading in 2011? Then somehow,
I think I probably look at it differently than somebody on the outside. I don't think it went wrong. I just don't think we were at the threshold we talked about where everything came together with network, compute, storage. Let me explain. We've got a lot of successful use cases. A lot. At that time, there was some work that had to be done. It wasn't like it is today where you got Gen AI and you had to label all the data. If you implemented a machine learning algorithm, you had to go down and hello meant hola, meant hi. You got to say yes. You had a human in the loop that had to say yes, those are the same things. Yes, they're the same things. That's a lot of labor intensive to make the AI solutions work. I think the other thing is, when we came out with that, you come out with Jeopardy. That was like, we're going to solve cancer or something else like that. So you don't solve cancer, okay. And the technology was much more manual. But look, we learned a lot from that. That's brought us to where we are today.
PwC are calling that, AI-powered automation is going to save businesses over $3 trillion annually, which is just huge. IBM have this concept of client zero who are leveraging AI across development, sales, engineering, all across. And you are, a senior influential figure within IBM and within the market, because I think your podcast is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Do you believe AI will take humanity to utopia or dystopia?
No, I don't think AI will. I think we got to do that. I mean, I think, in fact, I think it'll get in the way if we let it. It's a transformation like the Industrial Revolution, probably on steroids, and it's going at a pace that I've never seen before. I'm glad to be a part of it, but look, I think we're in charge of our own destiny, or need to be. What worries me a little bit is, or a lot, is I would call it the have and the have-nots around AI. what we forget, we got a planet of 8 billion people, right? There's not really that many that are really using and know AI. There's a lot of people out there, different parts of the world, that they don't even know what's going on around AI. Think about that for a second. I mean, billions of people that don't know anything about AI or not using AI. I think that has a tendency, if we let it, to really create the have and the have-nots. I don't know how we solve it, but it's a worry that I have that I don't think anybody talks about.